In last lecture, we have studied Earth's gravitational acceleration, its derivation to find out the formula for gravitational acceleration due to Earth. And now the next concept, that is the value of G. We have calculated the value of G 9.77 meter per second square. But on the surface of the Earth, it is not same, or it has in the value of G, there are some variations. या G च्या किमतीमध्ये काही बदल आहेत. काही कारणामुळे त्या G च्या किमतीत थोडाफार बदल होतो आणि तो बदल कोणता हा भाग आपल्याला इथं अभ्यासायचा आहे. याच्यामध्ये the first thing is that now variation in the value of G or the factors which affects the value of G. There are three factors. One, the change along the surface of the Earth. Now we know the shape of Earth is not exactly spherical, and so the distance of the point on the surface of the Earth from its center, it is different from place to place. म्हणजे पृथ्वीचा आकार हा परफेक्टली स्क्वेअर नाही आणि त्याच्यामुळं एक पृथ्वीच्या पृष्ठभागावरचं एखाद्या बिंदूचं सेंटर ऑफ मास, पृथ्वीच्या केंद्रापासूनचं अंतर हे वेगवेगळं राहतं. Now we know that due to its rotation, due to the rotation of the Earth is bulges at the equator and it is somewhat flattened at the poles. म्हणजे विषुवृत्तीय भागामध्ये पृथ्वी थोडीशी फुगीर आहे आणि ध्रुवीय भागामध्ये पृथ्वीचा आकार चपटा आहे आणि त्याच्यामुळं and therefore the distance at equator, distance of a point on the surface of the Earth from at equator is larger as compared to the distance on the poles. And म्हणून विषुवृत्तीय भागामध्ये पृष्ठभागावरच्या एखाद्या बिंदूचं केंद्रापासूनचं अंतर हे ध्रुवीय भागावरच्या एखाद्या बिंदूच्या केंद्रापासूनच्या अंतराच्या मध्ये कमी भरतं किंवा कमी असतं. This is due to the rotation. Earth bulges at the equator and flatter at the poles, and therefore the radius is largest at the equator and it is smallest at the poles. And we know the force of gravitation, it is inversely proportional to the square of distance. अंतर जिथं जास्त आहे तिथं फोर्स ऑफ ग्रॅव्हिटेशन कमी असणार आहे, अंतर जिथं कमी आहे तिथं फोर्स ऑफ ग्रॅव्हिटेशन जास्त असणार आहे आणि याचा परिणाम G च्या किमतीवरती होतो. म्हणजे काय, द व्हॅल्यू ऑफ G इज हायेस्ट ॲट द poles because the distance at the because the radius at pole is the smallest and value of G is highest at the poles, and at pole G is equal to 9.832 meter per second square, and at equator the value of G is smallest. This means that as we come from poles to equator, the radius goes on decreasing, radius goes on increasing, and at the poles it has largest radius and therefore value of G is smallest, and this value of G is 9.78 meter per second square. जसं आपण ध्रुवीय भागाकडून विषुवृत्ताकडे येऊ तशी त्रिज्या वाढत जाते आणि त्यामुळं हे विषुवृत्तावरची त्रिज्या ही सगळ्यात जास्त असते, त्यामुळे तिथे G ची किंमत ही सर्वात कमी होते. This means that the value of G changes from 9.832 to 9.78 meter per second square. G is equal to 9.78 meter per second square. आता इथे इक्वेटरला आलं, इथं पुन्हा पोल पशी गेले की ही G ची किंमत वाढत जाणार आहे, पुन्हा ह्या इथं आलं की कमी होत जाणार आहे आणि इथून इथं गेलं की पुन्हा वाढत जाणार आहे. आणि अशा पद्धतीनं जी ची किंमत ही 9.832 पासून 9.78 पर्यंत या दरम्यान बदलत राहते. पृथ्वीच्या पृष्ठभागावर जी ची किंमत ही 9.832 आणि 9.78 यांच्या दरम्यान बदलत जाते. पोल्स पासून विषुववृत्ताकडे येताना ती कमी होत गेली, पुन्हा ह्या दक्षिण ध्रुवाकडे जाताना ही वाढत जाईल, पुन्हा इक्वेटोरियल पण विरुद्ध दिशेत आल्यावरती कमी होईल आणि पुन्हा वाढेल. Thus the value of G ranges between 9.832 to 9.78 along the surface of the earth. This is the variation in the value of G along the surface of the earth. This is the factor affecting the value of G. Now the second factor, the value of G changes with height. व्हॅल्यू ऑफ जी, उंचीनुसार जी ची किंमत बदलते. आता उंचीनुसार जी ची किंमत बदलते असं आपण कधी म्हणू शकतो? वी नो द रेडियस ऑफ द अर्थ इज 6400 किलोमीटर. Then suppose suppose for any aeroplane it will be above the earth 10 kilometer. Then this is very small distance as compared to 6400 kilometer radius, and therefore the change with height, it is the in account change with height, we have to say that the value of G due to the larger distance in the distance of satellite from the center of the earth, from the satellite, from the center of the earth, there will be change in the value of G. When we consider an artificial satellite orbiting the earth, we have to take into account the change in the value of G due to the large change in the distance of the satellite from the center of the earth. म्हणजे पृथ्वीपासून खूप दूरवरच्या अंतरासाठी आपण जर विचार केला तर तिथं आपल्याला जी च्या किमतीतले बदल दिसून येतील. फॉर एक्झाम्पल, आर्टिफिशियल सॅटेलाइट जेव्हा पृथ्वीभोवती प्रदक्षिणा करत असेल त्यावेळी असणारे जे अंतर हे फार मोठं असणार आहे आणि त्यावेळी आपल्याला जी च्या किमतीत होणारे बदल दिसून येतात. आणि तुमच्या पुस्तकामध्ये पान नंबर 9 वरती अशी काही टिपिकल अंतर दिलेले आहेत आणि त्या अंतरासाठी असणारं जी ची व्हॅल्यू सुद्धा दिलेली आहे. In your book, on page number 9, there is one chart for some typical heights, and the values of G at these heights are given. Then we can read it carefully. On the surface of the earth, the average value is 9.8 given in your book. It is 9.83 meter per second square. On the top of the mountain Everest, the height is 8.8 kilometers. At this height, the value of G is 9.8 meter per second square. The maximum height reached by a man-made balloon, the height will be there 36.6 kilometer. At this height, the value of G is 9.77 meter per second square. Height of a typical weather satellites, it is 400 kilometer, and for this height the value of G is 8.7 meter per second square, and height of communication satellites, it is 35,700 kilometers, and for that value of G is very small, that is 0.225 meter per second square. Thus, as the height goes on increasing, the value of G goes on decreasing. The value of G decreases. Now the third part, change with depth. खोलीनुसार, आता इथं दुसऱ्या भागामध्ये आपण उंचीनुसार पाहिलं. आता खोलीनुसार जी च्या किमतीत होणारा बदल म्हणजे द फॅक्टर अफेक्टिंग द व्हॅल्यू ऑफ जी इज विथ डेप्थ. The third factor affecting the value of G is with depth. Now, in this case, value of G changes if we go deep inside the earth also, because if we go, we know the value of formula for G, that is Gm divided by r square. Suppose this is the value, suppose this is the earth, center of the earth. If we go deep inside the earth, for the object going deep inside the earth, for that the radius goes on decreasing. The radius goes on decreasing. So, and therefore we should say that one would think that the value of g should increase as per the formula. r कमी होत जातो, त्याच्यामुळे g ची किंमत वाढत जाईल असं आपल्याला वाटतं. पण जसं आपण आत जाऊ तसं पृथ्वीवर प्रयुक्त होणारं जे गुरुत्व बल आहे, जे गुरुत्व बल ज्या पृथ्वीच्या मास मुळे प्रयुक्त होतं. समजा ही वस्तू इथपर्यंत आली, ही वस्तू इथपर्यंत आली, तर ह्या पृथ्वीच्या ह्या मास मुळे वस्तूवरती जे गुरुत्वबल प्रयुक्त होत असतं ते मास कमी कमी होत जातं. As we go deep inside the earth, the earth which contributes towards the gravitational force felt by the object, it also decreases. As we go deep inside the earth, the part of earth which the part of earth which contributes towards the gravitational force felt by an object, it also goes on decreasing. म्हणजे जसं आत जाऊ तसं त्या वस्तूवर प्रयुक्त करणारं गुरुत्वबल, ज्या वस्तुमानामुळे गुरुत्वबल प्रयुक्त होत असतं ते पृथ्वीचं वस्तुमान कमी 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 होत जातं आणि त्यामुळं इथं m ची किंमत सुद्धा कमी होत जाते. The value of m also goes on decreasing, and as a result of this both m and g, m and r, the value of g goes on decreasing as we go deep inside the earth, and at the center of earth the g becomes 0. G becomes 0. म्हणजे काय, तर जसं आपण आत जाऊ तसं पृथ्वीची त्रिज्या कमी होत जाते. त्यामुळे आपल्याला असं वाटेल की जी ची किंमत वाढायला पाहिजे, पण जसं आत जाऊ तसं ज्या वस्तुमानामुळे वस्तूवरती गुरुत्वबल प्रयुक्त होत असतं ते पृथ्वीचं वस्तुमान कमी होत जातं. आणि ह्या दोन्हीचा एकत्रित परिणाम m आणि r यांचा एकत्रित परिणाम असा होतो की आत जाऊ तसं जी ची खोलीनुसार जी ची किंमत कमी होत जाते आणि पृथ्वीच्या केंद्राशी जी ची किंमत 0 होते. Now there are some questions on page number 9, that is think about it. In this questions, the first question is that on page number 9, think about it. The first question, will the direction of the gravitational force change as we go inside the earth? प्रश्न असा आहे की जसं आपण पृथ्वीच्या आतमध्ये जाऊ तसं ग्रॅव्हिटेशनल फोर्सची डायरेक्शन बदलत जाईल का? The answer is that no. Direction of gravitational force will not change because it is always directed towards the center of the earth. The second question, what will be the value of g at the center of the earth? मगाशीच एक्सप्लेनेशन मध्ये सांगितलेलं आहे, खोलीनुसार जी ची किंमत कमी होत जाते आणि त्यामुळं the value of g at the center of the earth is 0. The value of g at the center of the earth is 0. Now the next point is the mass and weight. Now in this there are these two concepts you have already studied. Now weight is also concept. It is related with the gravitation, and definition of the weight, we know that the weight of an object is defined as the force with which the earth attracts the object. Weight of the object is defined as the force with which the earth attracts the object, and therefore we write the formula for weight. It is equal to mg. It is equal to mg. We know the things. Weight is a vector quantity. It can change with the value of g. Then SI unit of weight is Newton. CJS unit is dyne, and it changes from place to place due to the change or variation in the value of g. Now, related to this concept, there is one activity on page number 10. Page number 10, the question is that use your brain power. The first question is that will your weight remains constant as you go above the surface of the earth? पृथ्वीच्या पृष्ठभागापासून तुम्ही वर गेलात तर वजन स्थिर राहील का? We know the variation in the value of g. It changes with height and therefore as we go above the surface of the earth, the weight also decreases. प्रश्न असा आहे, will your weight remain constant as you go above the surface of the earth? No. As we go above the surface of the earth, the weight will decrease with the value of g. Now the second question. There is one small example to solve. This example or the question is that read it carefully or write down it carefully. Suppose you are standing on a tall ladder. If your distance from the center of the earth is 2r, what will be your weight? हा प्रश्न समजून घ्या. एका उंच शिडीवरती तुम्ही उभे आहात आणि त्यावेळी तुमचं अंतर हे पृथ्वीच्या केंद्रापासून 2r इतकं आहे, म्हणजे पृथ्वीच्या त्रिज्येच्या दुप्पट झालं तर त्यावेळी तुमचं वजन किती असेल किंवा तुमच्या वजनामध्ये काय फरक पडलेला असेल हे आपल्याला इथं काढायचे. म्हणजे आपल्याला थोडक्यात हे सोल्युशन फॉर्म्युला वापरून सॉल्व करावं लागेल. We know the value of g. Formula for small g. It is g is equal to gm divided by r square. Now the distance r is the distance of the object from the center of the earth on the surface, but we are at a distance 2r. Now the distance is 2r from center of earth. Center of earth. Therefore, we have to calculate g. We have to write the formula for g. G at height. We can write here like as g capital M. The distance is 2r. The distance is 2r, and according to the formula we can write here 2r bracket square. Now we have to calculate the weight at this height. Therefore we have to write here weight at height is equal to mass into g at height. G at height. Now by using this is equation number 1, this is equation number 2. Now using this equation number 2, we can write here m divided by 4r square by using 2. This can be simplified like as 1 upon 4 gm divided by r square. Now m into gm divided by r square, this is nothing but the formula for g. By using equation 1, now we can write weight at height is equal to 1/4 m into g, and m into g, it is nothing but 1 upon 4 weight on surface. This is the formula for the object when it is on the surface. Therefore we can write here m weight on surface. Therefore the answer is that weight at the height, it is 1/4 that of the weight on the surface. म्हणजे if you are on a tall ladder, then the weight will be 1/4 that of on the weight on the surface of the earth. This is about the variation in the value of G. Now, to आता ही कन्सेप्ट तिथं झालेली आहे. जीच्या किमतीवरती परिणाम करणारे घटक कोणते आहेत, त्याच्याशी रिलेटेड काही ऍक्टिव्हिटीतले प्रश्न आपण सोडवले. पण पुन्हा एकदा ही कन्सेप्ट तुमची चांगली क्लिअर व्हावी त्याच्यासाठी एक प्रेझेंटेशन मी पुढे दाखवत आहे, ते पहा. आणि मग यानंतरच्या लेक्चरमध्ये तुम्हाला फ्री फॉल आणि एस्केप व्हेलॉसिटी हे 2 पॉइंट समजावून सांगितले जातील. त्यामुळे आता पहिल्यांदा प्रेझेंटेशन पाहून घ्या.
Variation in the value of G. A. Change along the surface of the earth. Will the value of G be the same everywhere on the surface of the earth? The answer is no. The reason is that the shape of the earth is not exactly spherical, and so the distance of a point on the surface of the earth from its center differs somewhat from place to place. Due to its rotation, the earth bulges at the equator and is flatter at the poles. Its radius is larger at the equator and smallest at the poles. The value of G is thus highest 9.83 meter per second square at the poles and decreases slowly with decreasing latitude. It is lowest 9.78 meter per second square at the equator. B. Change with height. As we go above the Earth's surface, the value of R in equation 5 increases and the value of G decreases. However, the decrease is rather small for heights which are small in comparison to the Earth's radius. For example, remember that the radius of the Earth is 6,400 kilometers. If an aeroplane is flying at a height 10 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, the distance from the Earth's surface changes from 6,400 kilometers to 6,410 kilometers, and the change in the value of G due to it is negligible. On the other hand, when we consider an artificial satellite orbiting the Earth, we have to take into account the change in the value of G due to the large change in the distance of the satellite from the center of the Earth. Some typical heights and the values of G at these heights are given in the following table. C. Change with depth. The value of G also changes if we go inside the Earth. The value of R in equation 5 decreases, and one would think that the value of G should increase as per the formula. However, the part of the Earth which contributes towards the gravitational force felt by the object also decreases. This means that the value of M to be used in equation 5 also decreases. As a combined result of change in R and M, the value of G decreases as we go deep inside the Earth. Think about it. 1. Will the direction of the gravitational force change as we go inside the Earth? Answer. 2. What will be the value of G at the center of the Earth? Answer. Every planet and satellite has different mass and radius. Hence, according to equation 6, the values of G on their surfaces are different. On the Moon, it is about 1/6 of the value on the Earth. As a result, using the same amount of force, we can jump 6 times higher on the Moon as compared to that on the Earth.